اخر الحصه، اللي عايز يبقى ياخده اتس اوكي از ويلكم يعني. زي ما اتفقنا لو في جزء انت ما انتش فاهمه لو سمحت بسالني فيه قبل ما اوصل للبونت اللي بعديها، علشان تبقى كل حاجه مفهومه من الاول للاخر، لان كل حاجه مبنيه على بعضيها يعني. Last class we started with something we call it atomic structure. And when it say from the electron configuration for any element, you can find the location of this element. We decided that all the elements in group 1, this one is a group number, this one is a valency electron, this one something we call it the valency. We did say we have a great difference between something we call it valency electron and valency. Any element in group 1 has a valency electron, 1 electron outermost shell. In group 2, 2 electron valency shell. In group 3, 3 electrons. In group 4, you have 4 electrons. In group 5, you have 5 electrons. In group 6, you have 6 electrons. In group 7, you have 7 electrons. Number of electrons outermost shell known as the valency electron. The valency is number of electrons not to be lost or gained to be as the nearest noble gas. This one need to lose 1, this need to lose 2, this one would like to lose 3, this one would like to share by 4, this one would like to gain 3, gain 2, and again 1. Each atom needs to be as the nearest noble gas. As you can observe, metal loses electron, non-metal gains the electron to form ions. To reach the noble gas electronic configuration, this information we're supposed to know it. Number 1. Number 2, we know the meaning of the word bonding. يعني ايه كلمة بوند أصلا؟ ايه الكلمة دي معناها ايه؟ بوند يعني ايه يا شباب؟ ايوه سامع انا، كلمة بوند معناها ايه بقى؟ ممكن تتكلموا عادي على فكرة.
Yes, Mr. If it's ionic bond, it's the transferring of electrons from one atom to another.
محمد إجابتك نقطة جميلة جدا، لكن ده مش معنى كلمة بوند. لابد ان احنا نكون متفقين ان كلمة بوند معناها attraction force. وفي المنهج بتاعنا كلمة بوند اسمها electrostatic attraction force. يبقى انا كل ما اكلمك على اي نوع من انواع البوند هتقول لي هي electrostatic attraction force. وبعدين تكمل الديفينيشن بتاعك according to the kind of bond which we have. احنا الاول متفقين على حاجات معينه. Number 1, the metal would like to be as an irresistible gas by losing electron and forming positive ion. That's number 1. Number 2, non-metal would like to be as a noble gas by gaining or sharing electrons. That's number 2. Number 3, كلمة bond معناها electrostatic attraction force. It's okay. Number 4, الاتوم has ability to lose or gain or share electrons. لكن ما عندهاش أي ability تخسر أو تكسب أي حاجة from the nucleus. دي شوية حاجات لابد إن أنا أكون عارفها already. It's okay. في حاجة إضافية لابد إن أكون عارفها، حاجة اسمها type of molecule، حاجة اسمها giant structure وحاجة اسمها simple molecular structure. This one I'll know it during my teaching now. Now I'm going to start with something we call it ionic bond. دي أول كلمة عندنا اسمها الايونيك بوند. يعني ايه كلمة ionic bond؟ نتكلم دلوقتي على حاجة اسمها الايونيك بوند which we have. احنا خلاص هنتكلم النهارده على البوندنج as we say. ناخد فيرست كلاس اللي احنا بنسميها الايونيك بوند. التوبيك حاجة اسمها نوفمبر سيشن ستودنت. يعني ايه كلمة ايونيك بوند يا محمد؟ يعني ايه كلمة ايونيك بوند يا مريم؟ يعني ايه يا سهيلة؟ يعني ايه كلمة ايونيك بوند؟
The transfer of electrons from an element to another element to reach full outer shell electrons.
ميرسي يا حماده، بس this one مش الديفينيشن بتاع كلمة ايونيك بوند حبيبي. definition for the word ionic bond احنا اتفقنا خلاص كلمة بوند معناها electrostatic attraction force. هي دي definition بتاع كلمة بوند. فلما اقول لك كلمة ionic bond يبقى اسمها electrostatic attraction force. أي definition لأي بوند في الدنيا كلها اسمها electrostatic attraction force. ولأنها ionic bond it's okay فالديفينيشن هيكمل بقى. يبقى اسمها that's right electrostatic attraction force between oppositely charged ions. electrostatic attraction force between oppositely charged ions. يعني you have a positive ion here and you have a negative ion here. The attraction force between them, this one is known as ionic bond. So okay. انا هسالك بعد كده how the ionic bond is formed، تبقى تكمل الديفينيشن بتاعك بقى، او مش الديفينيشن، اكسبلانيشن بتاعك اللي هو ايه؟ takes place by transfer of electron from the metal to the non-metal. ده الاكسبلانيشن how the bond is formed. علشان خاطري لازم احنا نكون محددين السؤال ايه بالظبط عشان اعرف اجاوب عليه. انا كنت بسال بعض الناس زمان واقول له يعني ايه ايونيك بوند؟ يقول لي الكتروستاتيك اتراكشن فورس بتوين ميتال ونون ميتال. اقسم بالله انا ما اعرف ان في الميتال والنون ميتال في اتراكشن فورس بتوين ذم. انا ما اعرفهاش الحقيقه. يعني لو جبت شويه صوديوم وحطيتهم في الاير مثلا اوكي، وجبت شويه كلورين جنبهم كده، يبقى في بينهم اتراكشن فورس؟ مش حاجه اسمها اتراكشن فورس بتوين الصوديوم والكلورين حبيبي. دي مش وارده هنا. الاتراكشن فورس بتوين الصوديوم ايون والكلورايد ايون اسمها الايونيك بوند. ولكن الاكسبلانيشن as we would say this one takes place by transfer of electron from the sodium to the chlorine. ماشي؟ يبقى نكمل من اول وجديد. متفقين على ايه؟ نمبر 1 كلمه ايونيك بوند عباره عن electrostatic attraction force between oppositely charged ions. Number 2 you may explain this attraction force by transfer of electron from the metal to the non-metal. Clear for us? Well, ionic bond is not essential to be between metal and non-metal. Yeah, generally it's between metal and non-metal. Like an ionic bond between oppositely charged ions. And for example, if I have something we call it ammonia in NaHA4 carrying positive, and something we call it nitrate in O3, and this one is carrying negative. This one is positively charged ion, and this one is negatively charged ion. Between the two ions which we have, there is electrostatic attraction force known as ionic bond. I'm going to return back, if you remind me, please. You told me all of the metal they have less than half filled outermost shell, and if they would like to be a noble gas, they will lose electron. And once they lose electron, they will convert into positive ion. But the rule عندنا, element like sodium, this one has 2 and 8 and 1. By losing 2 electrons, just 1 electron, so it will be sodium 11 here, and this one is 2 and 8, and this one converted into a positive. Element like magnesium, which has 2 and 8 and 2. By losing 2 electrons, will convert into magnesium, which has 2 and 8, and this one is 2 positive here. On the other hand, when the non-metal converted into ion, it will convert into negative ion by gaining electron. One like chlorine, we have 2 and 8, and we have 7. By gaining electron, it will be chloride, 2 and 8 and 8 negatively charged. One like the oxygen, which has 2, and this one is 6 here. It will gain 2 electrons to be the oxide, which is getting 2 and what? And 8. So some of the element known as metal, they convert it into a noble gas by losing electron. Some element known as non-metal, they will convert it into ion by gaining electron to be as the nearest noble gas. So what do we have here? A group of element known as metal loses electron. A group of element known as non-metal gains the electron. So the electron will transfer from this metal here to this non-metal here. So you have the sodium, which has 1 electron outermost shell. You have the fluorine, which has 7 electron outermost shell. A transfer of electron takes place from this sodium here to this fluorine, as you told me. Now what will you get? You will get sodium carrying positive, and you will get fluorine carrying, that's right, carrying 8 electrons. And this one is negatively charged as a negative ion. This one, the structure of the ionic compound, which is known as sodium fluoride. Sodium fluoride, which is a sodium carrying positive, fluorine, which has 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6 and 7 electron, and the 8th electron coming from the sodium, and this one is negatively charged ion. This one is a positively charged ion. The easiest way to draw the structure of something we call it ionic compound is just to draw the structure of the ion forming this compound. What does it mean? And if I'm going to draw a structure of something we call it magnesium oxide, showing the valency electron, what will you do? Now, continue with me step by step. Magnesium is in group 2. To be stable, it will lose 2 electrons. And in this case, it will convert into, that's right, magnesium carrying 2 positive. This one. So the magnesium, to be stable, it will lose 2 electrons. Now the magnesium looks like the electronic configuration for the noble gas. By the way, magnesium in this case is not stable. There is no stable ion and a charged particle. There is no stable charged particle. It will be stable only when, that's right, it's bonded to something, we call it negatively charged ion. On the other hand, we have the oxygen. Has how many electrons? The oxygen already has, count with me. That's right, it has 1 and 2, and a 3 and 4, and a 5 and 6 electron. This one will be stable by gaining 2 electrons. It will take the 2 electrons from the magnesium and it will convert it into 2 negative. The structure which you have now, this one known as magnesium oxide ionic compound. This one takes place by transfer of electron from the magnesium to the oxygen. So I'm going to repeat it back. What's the meaning of the word ionic bond? Electrostatic attraction force between oppositely charged ion. How this bond is formed by transfer of electron from the metal to non-metal. And I'm repeating back. When I ask you an exam, what's the meaning of the word ionic bond? Don't tell me it's attraction force between the metal and non-metal. This one is not accepted anymore. They get accepted a long time ago. لكن دلوقتي خلاص ما عادش. The word ionic bond is electrostatic attraction force between oppositely charged ion. How this one is formed? You told me by transfer of electron from the metal to non-metal. Accepted. I'm going to repeat it for you. If I ask you in an exam to draw the structure of something called sodium chloride, how can you make it? How am I supposed to make it? The question will complete for you, showing only the valency electron. So it's okay. I'm going to draw the sodium. Here is this one is sodium carrying positively charged. Because he told me draw the structure of that ionic compound, sodium chloride. It doesn't tell me show how the bond is formed. Now the question says sodium chloride, so I need a chloride ion. How the chlorine form an ion? The chlorine has 1 and 2, and a 3 and a 4, 5 and 6 and 7, and we have 8th electron from the sodium, and this one is converted into negatively charged ion. The structure we just drew right now, this one is counted as, yes, right, exactly as you said, this one is sodium chloride. Can you make for us aluminum oxide? For sure. You're going to draw the structure of aluminum ion. Aluminum which group? Group 3 will lose 3 electrons. So the aluminum will be drawn by this structure carrying 3 positive. Oxide is oxygen, as we said last class from the chemical formula. Which group is oxygen? That's right. Oxygen is group 6, has 6 electrons. Outermost shell would like to gain 2 electrons to be, that's right, as the nearest noble gas. So I'm going to make oxygen. Has 6 electrons, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and again 2 electrons from the aluminum, and they close the brackets, and this one is what? 2 negative. You just told me last class, the chemical compound is neutral. This one is 3 positive, this one is 2 negative. And also I told you last class to neutralize the compound, invert the charge. So you have 2 aluminum and you have 3 oxygen. This one is the structure of aluminum oxide. If you would like to repeat the drawing twice, I mean aluminum 2 times and oxygen 3 times, accepted. You would like to keep it like this, also accepted, and you would take the full mark. If I would like to draw something, we call it calcium nitride ionic compound. How to draw it? خلاص بقى احنا we know that. Calcium is in group 2, so it would be calcium carrying 2 positive after losing 2 electrons. Nitrogen, which group? Group 5. It has 5 electrons, 1 and 2, and a 3 and a 4, and a 5th. To be stable, it needs 3 extra electrons, 1 and 2 and a 3. And adding 3 electrons make it 3 negative. How you make the complete of the compound neutral? Just put 3 in this side and 2 here. This one is the calcium nitride. Do we have any question about this issue? We have any doubts about this part? أنا لو طلبت منك الاستراكشر بتاع أي ايونيك كومباوند، شغلتك بس إنك ترسم الايونز الموجودة. الميتال with no valency electron لأنه خسر كل الالكترونز بتاعته. النون ميتال ترسم الفالنسي الكترون وتضيف لها الالكترونز اللي جات لها من الميتال to be stable ion. I'm repeating it. طلبت منك حاجه اسمها الكالسيوم فلورايد، تبقى الكالسيوم يا مستر in group 2 to be stable it will lose 2 electron it will convert it into 2 positive. مشكور. Fluorine is in group 7 has 7 electron 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 4 5 and a 6 and a 7 here. And to be stable, it will gain 1 electron. نسكر عليه البراكتس واحط له negative here. Now balance the charge. This one is 1 and this one is 2. I'm going to write 2 here, and no need to write 1 here. This one for what? For something we call it calcium chloride, and how to draw the ionic compound. لحد اللحظة اللي احنا فيها دي, we have any doubt, any problem? This structure of something we call it what? Ionic compound. جماعة الخير, لو حد عنده أي doubt أو أي مشكلة, he can ask now if he wants. ميرسي ربنا يخليكم. Will you please remind me back? بكل سرور. You told me the ionic bond is electrostatic attraction force between oppositely charged particles, isn't it? Yes. This attraction force directly proportional to the charge of the ions. يعني لما اجيب لك chemical compound زي المغنيسيوم عنده 2 positive والاكسجين عنده 2 negative, واجيب لك واحد زي الصوديوم carrying positive والسكلورين carrying just 1 negative. احنا قلنا electrostatic attraction force directly proportional to the charge. يعني حسابك ان الاتراكشن فورس between المغنيسيوم والاكسجين stronger than that between sodium and the chlorine. عشان كده الميلتنج بوينت for magnesium oxide higher than the sodium chloride. يبقى لما اسالك في الامتحان ليه الميلتنج بوينت for magnesium oxide higher than sodium chloride? Stronger ionic bond. اشمعنى؟ The ionic bond strength directly proportional to the charge. هو اصلا الايونيك كومباوند سوليد وكريستال وحاجات زي كده طبعا. Show me that بكل سرور. ممكن اسالك سؤال اتفضل. ده sodium carrying positive. This one is the chlorine carrying negative. Between them what do we have? Ionic bond. طيب ممكن ارسمها تاني بعد اذنك؟ اتفضل. Sodium carrying positive, chlorine carrying negative. What? This one is the ionic bond between the sodium chloride or that one? ولا this one? ما هي attraction force between oppositely charged ion is ionic bond. يعني سواء دي او دي او دي all of them ionic bond. معنى كده انك عايز تقول لي ان لو رسمت الصوديوم positive here and this one is chloride here, or this one is sodium positive here and this one is chloride here. Also this attraction force and that attraction force and that attraction force and this attraction force, it's okay. And this attraction force and that attraction force and this one, all of them counted as ionic bond? Yes, all of them counted ionic bond. يعني فين المولكيول which we have here? All of the ions which you can see now, all of them part of the molecule. يعني المولكيول is not only one Na and one Cl, لا. This one is simple ratio between the ions which we have, simplest ratio. And this one simple representation. Like in how many sodium ion do we have? How many chloride ion do we have? They are billions. They are unknown. And their number change by changing the crystal size. That's why we call this kind of molecule as a giant structure. Giant structure. The molecule where the number of particles bonded to each other is unknown and it changed by changing the size of the crystal. This one is counted as giant structure. يعني أنا ما أعرفش أنا عندي كم صوديوم ion، ما أعرفش عندي كم chloride ion. This one I don't know it. لكن أنت لاحظت حاجة؟ أنا لاحظت الحقيقة. لاحظت إيه؟ إن إحنا عندنا strong attraction force between the ions which we have here. And all of them strongly bonded to each other to give you a solid crystal with high melting point. Solid crystal with high melting point. And the ions are strongly attached to each other. يعني أنت ما عندكش free ions. يعني this one will not conduct electricity. This one will not conduct electricity. Like once you separate the ion, how I'm supposed to separate this ion? The ions here can be separated and move freely by one of two ways. What is the ways which we have? One of them either dissolving, the other one is melting. Those are the two ways we may find free ions. This one can dissolve, yes. This one is polar compound, can dissolve in polar solvent as water. Number two, this one dissolve in polar solvent as water. Number one, it was what? Solid crystal with high melting point. Number two, dissolve in polar solvent and get free ion. Number three, when it's melt, you will get free ion and this one will conduct electricity. So can you please arrange the character which you have now, please? For sure. Count with me. Solid crystal with high melting point, dissolve in polar solvent, conduct when they are molten or a solution. Repeat it for me if you don't mind, please. Solid crystal with high melting point, dissolve in polar solvent, conduct only when they are molten or a solution. Why only when they are molten or solution? Because in solid there is no free charges or no free ions. Now the conductors, they have free charge. It may be electrons or may be ions. For the ionic compound, once they are molten or a solution, they have something we call it free ions. Here is one for the ionic compound. From the beginning, if you don't mind, I'm going to make it quickly for you. What's the meaning of the word ionic bond? Electrostatic attraction force between oppositely charged ion. How this one is formed by transfer of electron from the metal to non-metal. How can you draw it? By drawing the structure of the metal ion and the non-metal ion and neutralize the charge. What is the character of the ionic compound? Solid crystal with high melting point, dissolve in polar solvent as water, conduct electricity only when they are molten or a solution as they have free ions. All of the ionic compound, as we would say, they have a giant structure. What is giant structure? Structure where you have a known number of particles bonded to each other. And this number depends on the size of the crystals. How can you represent the ionic compound? Simplest ratio between the ions. Like writing sodium chloride in ACl, magnesium fluoride MgF2, aluminum chloride, its one is AlF3, aluminum oxide Al2O3. This doesn't indicate we have a simple molecule containing 2 aluminum and 3 oxygen. No. This one is the simplest ratio between the ions. This one for something we call it ionic compound. Now I'm going to start with the other kind of bond which we have. The atom making anything to reach the noble gas structure. Noble gas electronic configuration. We had a case here, the metal would like to lose electron, the non-metal would like to gain electron, that's why there was transfer of electron from the metal to the non-metal. This one happened already in something we call it ionic bond. How about if I don't have a metal, I have only non-metals? Ya shabab, anybody has a doubt about this issue till now? I hope there is nobody has a doubt. If this one for something we call it what? That's what I just told me now, ionic bond. The other kind of bond which we have known as a covalent bond. What is a covalent bond? Anybody knew what's a covalent bond? حد عنده information؟ ممكن تتكلموا على فكرة. والله عندكم مايك وأنا هسمعكم عادي. You can talk. سهيلة, Muhammad.
It's a covalent bond is formed by the sharing of electrons between two atoms.
سهيلة حبيب بابا أنا ما بسألش how the bond is formed. Generally لما حد يسألك السؤال لابد يكون عندك answer للسؤال. ما تلفش حواليه. يعني أنت إجابتك مظبوطة لكن مش للسؤال ده، لسؤال ثاني. بس أول ما اتكلمت يا شباب قلت يا محمد قلت إيه؟ البوند يا جماعة عبارة عن electrostatic attraction force. يبقى أنت لأي definition of bond، أي definition لبوند لازم تقول لي البوند هي إيه؟ electrostatic attraction force. Okay, man?
Yes, between negatively charged ions.
ميرسي يا حماد. محاولة طيبة لكن أعتقد إنها جت اوف سايد this time. طيب if you remind please. You just told me if you have a metal and something we call it a non-metal, there will be a transfer of electron from the metal to the non-metal. Now I don't have except non-metals. Yani no one of them will lose electron. They able only to gain or share electron. So they decided to share electrons. Okay, yeah, like when you have a chlorine and another chlorine. This chlorine has 7 electron outermost shell required to gain 1. This chlorine has 7 electron outermost shell required to gain 1. Need to gain 1. So they will share this one by 1 electron and this one by 1 electron. Okay? So the structure will be by this way. 1 electron from the first chlorine, 1 electron from the second chlorine. And we still have 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and 5 and 6 here. 1 and 2, and 3 and 4, 5 and 6 here. Now if you count number of electrons around this chlorine, you'll find it 8. If you count it around this chlorine, you'll find it 8. And you will form something we call it chlorine single bonded to chlorine. So this single bond is made of 2 electrons, consists of 2 electrons, 1 pair of electrons, 1 electron from each atom. Is that clear for us? Yes, it is. So if you don't mind, this one is known as covalent bond. Yes, but you didn't give me the definition for the covalent bond. I told you it's electrostatic attraction force. Man, electrostatic attraction force is any kind of bond. كلهم electrostatic attraction force. هنا كان between oppositely charged ion. هنا I'm going to draw the structure of chlorine again. Maybe when I draw it, it will be clear for you. What do we have? We have the first chlorine, and this one is secondary chlorine. We have the nucleus here positively charged. This one is the nucleus positively charged. We have 2 electrons, 1 from each atom. We still have 6 chlorines here. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. This one is the first chlorine atom. This one is second chlorine atom. And the covalent bond is electrostatic attraction force between positive nuclei and the shared electron. I'm repeating it. It is the electrostatic attraction force between the positive nuclei and the shared electron. I'm repeating it. Electrostatic attraction force between the positive nuclei and the shared electron. This one, definition of something, we call it what? We call it ionic bond. By the way, this was trial Zoom. So the Zoom will be off now, and I'm going to start it again. And you're going to use, that's right, the same link which you have to get him back. Now I'm going to make it for you. We have something, we call it oxygen, and we have another oxygen. This one. Oxygen has 6 electrons, so it's required 2. 1 from the first oxygen, 1 from the second oxygen. 1 from the first oxygen, 1 from the second oxygen. And we still have 4 here. And we still have 4 non-bonded electrons here. And you will get oxygen double bonded to the other oxygen. For the nitrogen, we have the same thing. Nitrogen has 5 electrons, by the way. So we have this nitrogen